something extraordinary is unfolding during Formula One summer break, and it could mark the end of one of the greatest careers the sport has ever witnessed. While fans are enjoying the 3-week pause between races, one man is quietly making a decision that could change Formula One forever. Fernando Alonso is reportedly using this break to decide whether he will return for another season, or whether he has already driven his final Formula One race. It is a decision that has the entire paddock holding its breath. Drivers, engineers, team bosses, and former world champions all understand the significance of what is happening. Because if Fernando Alonso walks away, Formula One will lose far more than just another driver. It will lose one of the last living connections to an era that may never be repeated. So, what is really happening behind the scenes? Why is everyone talking about Alonso's future? And what have some of Formula One's biggest names said about the possibility of his retirement? Let's dive into the full story. To understand why this decision carries so much weight, you first have to understand who Fernando Alonso really is. His Formula One journey began back in 2001 when he made his debut for the struggling Minardi team at just 19 years old. Minardi was never expected to fight for victories. It was one of the smallest teams on the grid, operating with limited resources and almost no chance of competing with the giants of Formula One. Yet even then, Alonso's incredible talent was impossible to ignore. Earlier this year, during the Monaco Grand Prix weekend, Alonso revealed a remarkable statistic that perfectly sums up his life. He said that 41 of his 45 years have been spent behind a steering wheel. Think about that for a moment. He climbed into a car when he was only 4 years old and has been racing ever since. Very few athletes in any sport can claim to have dedicated virtually their entire lives to one passion. His achievements speak for themselves. Alonso became a 2-time Formula One world champion with Renault in 2005 and 2006, ending Michael Schumacher's historic dominance and beginning a new era in Formula One. Across an incredible career spanning more than 2 decades, he has collected 32 Grand Prix victories, multiple pole positions, countless podium finishes, and established himself as one of the greatest racing drivers ever to sit behind the wheel. But Alonso's success wasn't limited to Formula One. During his temporary departure from the championship, he conquered some of motorsport's toughest challenges. He won the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans twice, claimed the FIA World Endurance Championship, and competed in prestigious events like the Dakar Rally and the Indianapolis 500. Very few racing drivers in history have demonstrated such incredible versatility across so many different disciplines. Now, at 45 years old, Alonso finds himself facing perhaps the toughest decision of his career. His current Aston Martin contract expires at the end of the 2026 season. Earlier this year, his life also changed forever away from the racetrack with the birth of his son, Leonardo. For the first time in decades, Formula One is no longer the only priority in Fernando Alonso's life. Family has entered the equation, making this decision far more emotional than any contract negotiation. Ironically, Alonso himself created the biggest twist in this retirement story. Before the 2026 season even began, he made a fascinating statement that completely changed how people viewed his future. Most people naturally assumed that if Aston Martin finally became competitive, Alonso would be eager to continue racing and fight for victories again. Instead, Alonso said exactly the opposite. He explained that if Aston Martin became competitive, there would actually be a greater chance that he would retire. But if the team continued struggling, it would be extremely difficult for him to leave because he would always wonder what might have happened if he had stayed one more year. It sounds almost unbelievable, but Alonso's logic actually makes perfect sense. He doesn't want to retire feeling disappointed or wondering whether the Aston Martin project could eventually succeed. He wants to leave knowing that the team's ambitious project worked and that he helped build something special. Ending his career inside a competitive Formula One car would allow him to walk away satisfied. That is exactly why Aston Martin's recent progress has become so important. During the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, the team introduced significant upgrades that finally showed genuine signs of improvement. Aston Martin reached Q2 for the first time this season, proving that months of development are finally beginning to pay off. Legendary designer Adrian Newey even described the update package as only the beginning of a much larger transformation. Former Formula One driver David Coulthard also expressed confidence that Aston Martin could eventually become race winners. According to Alonso's own words, every step Aston Martin takes toward competitiveness actually increases the possibility that he will retire rather than continue racing. Throughout the 2026 season, Alonso has spoken openly about his future, and when those comments are placed together, they reveal the emotional battle taking place inside his mind. Back in Monaco, when Aston Martin was struggling near the back of the grid and facing reliability concerns, Alonso admitted that stopping racing would be incredibly difficult. He said he still loved driving, remained highly motivated, and felt as competitive as ever whenever he climbed into the cockpit. A few months later, during his home race in Barcelona, Alonso sounded noticeably more reflective. He admitted that retirement was approaching and said he was trying to appreciate every single moment inside a Formula One car. More importantly, he revealed that he would need to discuss his future with the people closest to him before making any final decision. Then came Hungary. Once again, Alonso emphasized that his future was not determined solely by Aston Martin's performance. There were other personal factors influencing his decision. It became increasingly clear that those personal factors centered around his young son Leonardo and the desire to spend more time with his growing family after dedicating more than 4 decades to racing. One of the strongest indications of how uncertain the situation remains came from respected Sky Sports Formula One reporter Ted Kravitz. Reporting directly from the Hungaroring paddock just before the summer break, Kravitz explained that Alonso would spend the next 3 weeks deciding whether he wanted to continue racing. Perhaps even more telling was Kravitz's prediction. He didn't say retirement was likely. He didn't predict Alonso would definitely stay. Instead, he described the situation as perfectly balanced. 50% chance of staying and 50% chance of retiring. For someone with years of inside knowledge and close relationships throughout the Formula One paddock, that assessment carries enormous weight. It suggests that even Aston Martin itself may not know what Alonso will ultimately decide. Former Formula One driver Ralf Schumacher offered perhaps the most direct opinion of anyone involved in the sport. Schumacher believes the time has finally come for both Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton to step away from Formula One and allow the next generation to take center stage. His comments weren't intended as criticism. Instead, they reflected how dramatically Formula One has evolved. Young stars like Kimi Antonelli have already begun establishing themselves. Max Verstappen has dominated modern Formula One from an incredibly young age, while Lando Norris has emerged as one of the sport's biggest championship contenders. The new generation is no longer preparing to inherit Formula One. It is already leading it. Still, Schumacher's comments sparked plenty of discussion because many people inside the paddock believe Alonso remains one of the fastest and most complete drivers on the entire grid. No opinion may matter more than Adrian Newey's. After all, Newey joined Aston Martin specifically to help build a championship-winning team, and Alonso has become one of his most valuable assets. During the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, Newey praised Alonso's exceptional technical feedback, explaining that his experience helps engineers solve problems that computers and simulations simply cannot identify. Alonso doesn't just drive the car quickly. He provides incredibly detailed information that accelerates the team's development. Newey openly admitted he hopes Alonso remains with Aston Martin for another season. However, he also acknowledged that the decision belongs entirely to Alonso himself. Those comments revealed just how valuable Alonso has become, not only as a racing driver, but also as one of the team's greatest development tools. Lewis Hamilton also shared heartfelt thoughts about Alonso's uncertain future. Their relationship has always been one of Formula One's most fascinating stories. As teammates during the unforgettable 2007 McLaren season, they battled each other fiercely in one of the most controversial championship fights in modern Formula One history. Over the years, Hamilton has repeatedly described Alonso as one of the toughest competitors he has ever faced. He has admitted that racing alongside Alonso pushed him to improve in ways no other teammate ever managed. When asked recently about Alonso's possible retirement, Hamilton didn't simply offer polite respect. Instead, he said Formula One would genuinely miss Fernando Alonso. Those words reflected deep admiration from a seven-time world champion who understands exactly how difficult it is to perform at Alonso's level for such an extraordinary length of time. Even Max Verstappen joined the conversation. Despite dominating modern Formula One, Verstappen admitted he has been deeply impressed by Alonso's performances this season. He acknowledged that Aston Martin has not provided an easy car to drive. Yet Alonso continues extracting performances that many believe are beyond the car's true potential. Coming from Verstappen, a driver widely regarded as one of the greatest talents of his generation, that praise means everything. It demonstrates the enormous respect Alonso continues to command among today's elite drivers. Ultimately, Fernando Alonso's retirement would represent far more than another vacant seat on the Formula One grid. It would mark the conclusion of one of the longest, most remarkable careers in motorsport history. He is the final active Formula One driver to have raced against Michael Schumacher. He has competed through multiple generations of regulations, from the screaming V10 engines to refueling strategies, from naturally aspirated power units to today's complex hybrid technology. Very few drivers have managed to remain competitive across so many completely different eras of Formula One. When Alonso eventually leaves, the sport will lose decades of experience, unmatched technical knowledge, and a level of determination that has inspired countless generations of racing drivers. Drivers will continue winning races. New champions will continue emerging. But there will never be another Fernando Alonso. As the Formula One summer break continues, one question remains unanswered. Will Alonso decide that the time has finally come to close this incredible chapter? Or will he return for one final season to help Aston Martin complete the ambitious project he helped build? The answer is expected before Formula One returns at Zandvoort. And when the lights go out for the Dutch Grand Prix, the sport could either welcome Fernando Alonso back for another campaign, or witness the beginning of a completely new era without one of its greatest legends. Now we'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think Fernando Alonso should retire at the end of the season, or does he still have one more year left in Formula One? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Formula One news and updates.